Hello everybody, welcome to the X-Ray. This is my 4th episode. Today we're gonna learn about Today we're gonna talk about Mr. John Huss. Who is Mr. John Huss? Let's find it out. Mr. John Huss was born in a country called Bohemia. He was born on AD 1969, and he was one day to become the famous and the best man in Bohemia. And he was born in a town in Goose Town. I think I should introduce Goose Town to you. Why is it called Goose Town? In Bohemia, this Goose Town is very famous for its goose, because there's millions and millions of goose in this town, so they called it Goose Town. Isn't it interesting? Let's move on. Well, the town name, there were many geese. And when Mr. John Huss was young, sadly, his father passed away. But her mother tried to give her the best education he can have, and her mother would work hard for his lessons every day. Then this made him join college. And although Mr. John Huss is not really a brilliant student, but he worked diligently and hardly to achieve his goal. Mr. John, after several years of studying in the large university in Bohemia, after several years in the study of union, he went to teach. He once said that he worked hard to earn money for his lessons every day. As students, do you learn hard? Do you work hard for your lessons? Mr. John has a really good character. After John Huss graduated from his university, Mr. John Huss became the teacher of philosophy. For 2 years, he taught from the philosopher works of Aristotle, a famous Greek philosopher. Later, he began to teach from the works of Mr. John Wycliffe. With last episode, we have said that, and Mr. Huss was greatly influenced by the writings of Mr. John Wycliffe. We have talked that last episode, and lectures which Mr. Huss gave at the university were full of theology and philosophy of Mr. Wycliffe. Let's get back to Mr. Huss. Mr. Huss became a large church pastor in AD 1402. His ministry is same as Mr. Wycliffe. Salvation is by grace. Mr. John Huss preached many truths which were very unpopular in Bohemia. Among other church leaders of that time, he was preached as did Mr. Wycliffe, as I said. In Bohemia, the churches also believed that salvation was by grace. And then in Acts chapter 4 verse 12 says, "Neither is there salvation in any form, for there is none other name under heaven given among men, whereby we must be saved," to get salvation. Mr. John Huss stood for what he believed, and he became the most unpopular preacher in Bohemia. And then he was and both in Bohemia was influenced. He spoke out against evil, and Mr. John Huss became very unpopular with the leaders of influence both in churches and the government of Bohemia. There's a lot of leaders that accused Mr. Huss' teaching, even though everybody disagreed with him, but Mr. Huss still stayed on his opinion. He was tried on these false accusations and unjustly sentenced to death. But we know that although it's said that by God he died for the salvation, he died, but we know that he is in heaven, happy and happy forever. Thank you. Now we know that who is Mr. John Huss. Thank you.